Hey guys, welcome back to my kitchen. So today I am going to continue to use the blueberries that I got in bulk over the weekend. We got a whole flat of them for $12 and there's quite a lot of blueberries in there and they're all in pretty good shape. So we're just gonna work through processing all of those. But I figured I would make the kids a really good snack since I needed to use some of my sourdough discard anyway, and we're gonna make a loaf of blueberry lemon bread. And this is going to use half a cup of my sourdough discard, so that's good. So I'll be able to use it down so I can refeed it. But I have just about everything I need to get started, so let's get going. The first thing we're going to do is get a cup of sugar and put that in here. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to get my butter melting because we're going to put that in with the sugar. So you want to use half a cup of butter. Usually you want to go with an unsalted butter. I have salted, oh my goodness. I have salted butter. So I'm just going to be mindful of that when I'm adding the butter from the recipe in. You don't want too much butter, basically is what I'm getting at. So if you have a salted butter, that just means add less in your recipe. Let me pop this in the microwave. It was already soft, so 30 seconds ought to do it. And in the meantime, we'll get our 1 cup of sugar. I usually like to use like a raw sugar, but I have plain old, good old-fashioned granulated sugar, so that's what we're gonna go with today. It's a little bit more than a cup. There we go. Level that out. And goes our cup of sugar, and let me grab our butter. Perfect. Go ahead and get that in there. I didn't even make a mess. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put that on low to get that all combined. In the meantime, we're gonna get 1/4 cup of avocado oil, because that's going to go in as well. You could use any oil that you have on hand. I prefer avocado oil or olive oil. If you have vegetable oil, go ahead and use that too. Stay away from your seed oils, like no grapeseed oil, stuff like that. They're not great for you. There we go. Also, I'm going to grab the milk because I forgot to grab that. Milk. Alrighty. I'm just trying to look at the recipe as I go. I've made this once or twice before, but I don't remember it off the top of my head, so I always have to have the recipe in front of me. There's no shame in that. We're gonna do a teaspoon of vanilla, and I've told you guys before, I usually measure my vanilla with my heart. Whatever looks like a teaspoon to me. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but how can you go wrong? All right. Also going to, so the original recipe, again, comes from Farmhouse on Boone. That's one of my favorite resources as far as sourdough discard recipes and sourdough recipes in general go. She originally calls for using the zest of a whole lemon and the juice from that lemon. I'm short on lemons today, so we're gonna go with lemon juice, and I'm gonna do about 1/4 cup because that should be about right. Now, since I don't have the zest of the lemon, if I had a lemon extract, I would probably use that instead of the vanilla. I'm out of my lemon extract as well, so we're just making do. And this is basically what this channel is here for, is to show you how you can substitute, how you can make do without, you know, everything that a recipe calls for. I'm still gonna make a loaf of bread. My kids are still gonna love it, even though I don't have absolutely everything that was in this recipe. So that's why we're here. Now we're gonna get our eggs, and I have 3 of our farm fresh eggs. Aren't they pretty? I love the green ones. So I keep my eggs on the counter. So when I get them collected, I don't wash them. If there's a really gross spot on them, I'll wipe that off and clean that off, but I don't wash them, so I can leave them on the counter, and they're just so much better for baking that way. I always crack my eggs into a bowl. I will say this always. Even though I know my eggs are fresh, if there were to be a bad egg, I would much rather just throw out my eggs than throw out all my other ingredients as well. In those go. I think I can get rid of this little bowl now. Out of my way. Okay, I think that's most of the wet ingredients, aside from the sourdough starter, which actually we can go ahead and add. When I got this sourdough starter jar, it came with this cute little, it's like a little hair cap. So I just stick it on top. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. I want to show you guys this. Okay, let me show you. My sourdough starter has sat for a couple days inactively, and I don't know if you'll be able to see. Do you see that liquid in there? You see that liquid? Okay, let's talk about that liquid. That liquid is called the hooch. And a lot of people, like, we just asked my stepmom if she still had her sourdough starter that I gave her around Christmas time, and she threw it out. She had it in a refrigerator, and when she pulled it out, she saw the hooch on top, thought it was bad, and threw the whole thing out. You don't have to do that. The hooch is perfectly fine. It's perfectly normal. Now, if it starts to go moldy, don't take my advice, because I've had a little bit of mold on the top and I've kind of just taken that off, and it was perfectly fine beneath the mold. So I kept my starter, just like discarded most of it and started it over again. If it's moldy, you might want to consider starting over, but the hooch is not mold. That's perfectly fine. All we do is come in here and drain it off, and you're good to go. And we need a half a cup. Don't ask me why. I do all my liquid measuring in my glass measuring cup, except for my sourdough starter. I always put it in a regular measuring cup. I don't know why. It is pretty much a liquid. I think maybe it's just easier to scrape it out of this measuring cup. Okay. There we go. And I'm gonna feed this here in a little bit, so I'm not gonna screw the lid back on very good. I'm just gonna kind of sit it over here so that I can feed it. I'm gonna drop this down, get my starter in there. Sourdough starters really are pretty resilient, but you just gotta have to keep an eye on it. Like, if you don't wanna feed it every day, you can put it in the refrigerator. Mine lives on the counter. I don't feed it every day. I don't discard it every day. I don't use it every day. But I do try to feed it a couple times a week just to keep it alive, because otherwise it will go moldy and it will die, and you know, then you'll be starting over from scratch again, and it'll be 2 or 3 weeks before you can do anything with it. Okay, while I have this down here, I am gonna go ahead and, oh, I already added my sugar, didn't I? Keep me in line, guys. I gotta add a teaspoon of salt, and again, I'll just kind of measure with my heart here. Remember, we were doing a little bit less than a teaspoon because we had the salted butter. And I need a teaspoon of baking powder. Where are they? I left my teaspoon somewhere. There it is. Teaspoon of baking powder. I get my baking powder from the Amish, so it's always in a baggie, which looks really funny, but it is what it is. Okay, and then I'm going to add the flour, and we need, let's see here, I know I wrote it down. Didn't I? Baking powder, salt, sourdough, discard, sugar, lemon juice. Oh, it looks like I didn't. Hang on, guys, I gotta go get my recipe back. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and write my 1.5 cups of flour. I can't believe I didn't put it down, but 1.5 cup flour. So I keep all my recipes in this, all the ones I like to use all the time in this. I got it from Michael's. So it's full of, you know, everything that it's either my recipe or somebody else's recipe that I liked and I wanted to keep in one handy spot. So I always write everything down there so that I have it. Now, 1.5 cups of flour. Okay, there you go. And I just used my cup here. I keep my flour down here. That way it's nice and easy and convenient to get to. I'd always keep a cup measure in it too. That way I have everything handy. When you have a kitchen as busy as mine, you have to try to make everything convenient, or else it's just a hassle and then you don't even want to get started. So while this is mixing up, I have my 1.5 cups of blueberries here. They're already washed, and I'm going to get a tablespoon of flour, and we're going to put the flour on there. We're going to sprinkle it over. Now, the reason why you want the flour on your blueberries is so that blueberries are full of liquid and moisture, and this is going to help them not make your bread too moist. So you just want to coat your blueberries. Oh, and I do have to add 1/4 cup of milk. Almost forgot. That's the other thing I want to express to you too on this channel is it's okay if you do things out of order. Unless you're doing something that's very specific. If you're doing something that's very, very specific, then yeah, you're going to want to do things in order, but it's quite all right to just, oh, I forgot the milk, let me add it in. Better to do that than not add it at all. Probably going to spill. Of course, this is our raw goat's milk, but you can use any milk that you prefer. In it goes. I'm just going to let that go. I'm going to get out my, oops. Get out my glass loaf pan, and I'm going to give it a spray really good with my avocado oil. See, I keep everything handy. The island of my kitchen might look a little cluttered, but it's because everything I use on a regular basis is right within arm's reach. But that works. Come on. Okay, that's good enough. I'm just going to kind of push this back out of the way. Good enough for now. Clean off the paddle. We don't want any of that good batter left behind. The flour's on the spatula from the blueberries. There we go. Just gonna scrape down the sides real quick, make sure everything's incorporated. It is. Okay. Now, we are just going to go ahead and fold in these blueberries very gently. You want them mixed in, but you don't want to break them apart or anything like that. So, just gently fold it. Okay. That's good to go. We're going to pour it into our prepared loaf pan. Making sure to scrape it all out. We don't want to waste any. Oops. I say that, then I make a mess. See, I'm always making messes. I need a shirt with that on it, I think. Always making messes. That's really good. Tastes faintly of lemon. So that's good. So we did get the lemon. We achieved the lemon essence. It's not heavy lemon, but it's there. Let's get this out of the way because now we're gonna make the crumb top. And to do that, I guess I could have used that little bowl again. We need our butter here. So we need 4 tablespoons melted. Grab. It never fails. Even if I think I've prepared everything and got it all sitting here ready to go, I'll always forget something. So, there we go. 4 tablespoons of butter up to the microwave. And I'm gonna grab a small bowl here, and I need 2 tablespoons of sugar, half a cup of flour, a pinch of salt. Everybody's idea of a pinch is a little different, so pinch away. And then I just got to put my butter in there. I'm gonna grab a fork too because that just makes it easier. Before I add the butter, I just kind of want to incorporate those things all together. Put the butter in there. This is to make the crumb topping. So you want it to be crumbly and, well, crummy, if you will. That's why I'm using the fork, so we can keep that nice crumbly texture. So I think that looks beautiful. Now you could add some cinnamon to that too if you wanted, and I think that would be lovely, but that's about the texture that you want, and we're just gonna go ahead and pour that on the top. I use my hands so I can evenly sprinkle it. Some of the clumps tend to get a little big. That'll do. Okay, we're gonna put this in a 350-degree oven for 60 to 70 minutes until a toothpick comes out clean. It's kind of tricky when you're doing something like this with blueberries, or if it had chocolate chips in it. You have to kind of check it in a couple different places, because if you hit a spot that has a blueberry in it, it's not gonna come out clean. That doesn't mean that your bread's not done. That just means that, well, right around the blueberry it's still moist, which is totally fine, but try it in a couple different spots to see if you can pull that toothpick out clean, because you don't want to over bake it either. You still want it to be moist, not dry as can be. So I will catch up with you after I take this out of the oven. Also, I'm going to let it sit for probably half an hour to 40 minutes or so. That way we can slice it and see how delicious it is.
Hello.
All right, so here it is out of the oven. Try not to tilt it too much. Isn't it beautiful? So we're gonna go ahead and cut this open now, and I have a couple taste testers. Chase is over here too, so he's probably gonna, you gonna taste test it? No, you don't want to? You don't like blueberries?
I like blueberries, it's just...
Okay. I'm gonna get a paper towel because you're gonna need, oh my goodness. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. There you go.
Yippee.
I guess I'll take the smallest taste. It's not diet approved, but.
I'm a mess.
Mhm. 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 Oh yeah.
It tastes like a almost blueberry cheesecake.
Yeah, this is really good. It's still warm too, so it's extra special. Definitely make this. It's perfect if you don't have the lemon, like I said before. Use the 1/4 cup of the lemon juice because it works out perfect. There's just the nicest little hint of lemon. You get the blueberries, and it's not overly sweet. It's the perfect dessert. So definitely make this. I hope you enjoy it. And till next time, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.